What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Ryan MC here, and I am back with another video. So today I will be doing a tier list of fantasy books that have turned into either movies or television shows. And yeah, I know I'm a little bit late to this trend, but you know, whatever. I don't really do YouTube a whole lot. But yeah, so basically if you don't know what this concept of a tier list is, it's very self-explanatory, but might as well go through it anyway. Basically, you're just going to give a rank to whatever you want to, for S being the best, D being the worst, everything else kind of being in the middle. And yeah, so I'm going to be doing fantasy adaptations, basically fantasy books that have turned into either movies or television shows. I don't know if I already said that, but yeah, so basically this is just a random assortment, not particularly random, I picked them all, but it's not every single fantasy movie that I've seen or TV show, obviously, but it's just some of the ones that I thought would make an entertaining video. So yeah, without further ado, let's jump into this. Okay, so first off, we have the Lord of the Rings trilogy, directed by Peter Jackson, obviously based off the books by J.R.R. Tolkien. This one's an absolute no-brainer. It is S tier. It is the pinnacle of movies, in my opinion. Yeah, it's just, it's a no-brainer. These movies are absolutely fantastic. They really showed that you can turn epic fantasy books into a movie adaptation successfully. And yeah, I mean, there's so much to love about these movies. One of my favorite things is that they didn't over-rely on CGI in these movies, because when these movies were being made in the late 90s, early 2000s, obviously CGI wasn't as advanced as it is today, and that just makes going back and watching these movies just absolutely incredible, because it still looks real and it still holds up absolutely solid. They relied mostly on practical effects, so it just makes everything look better, and yeah, so it would be very difficult for it to become like outdated. Like, there are a few scenes in the movie where you can tell obviously they're in front of a green screen, but overall it's just absolutely fantastic. And yeah, like, I guess the only one criticism I can have of these movies is they did cut quite a bit out, most notably Tom Bombadil from the first book. But I mean, these movies are already over 3 hours apiece, so how much longer are you really going to make them? So obviously some things had to be cut here and there, and they even added certain things that just make the movies better, in my opinion. Like in the first movie, showing Boromir's descent into madness and corruption by the ring, and then his redemption arc afterward, is just executed absolutely flawlessly. Another thing I really like that they added was, I think it's in Return of the King. See, I know this part is in the Two Towers book, but I always get it mixed up in whether this is in Return of the King or the Two Towers, but I'm pretty sure it's Return of the King. Basically, when Frodo, Smeagol, and Samwise are about to go into Shelob's lair, and Smeagol basically makes it look like Sam ate all of their food whenever they were sleeping, and then like Frodo kicking him out and like telling him to go home, just showing like how corrupt the ring has made Frodo, and how much Smeagol is kind of like intricate and manipulating things. Like, that part wasn't included in the books, but they added it into the movie, and they just made some excellent judgment calls and what to include and what not to include, and what to add to make the movies even better. So yeah, I know I've been rambling quite a long time about Lord of the Rings, but absolutely fantastic. S tier for sure. Alright, next off we have the animated movie Coraline, which I don't know about you guys, but I personally didn't know Coraline was a book adaptation up until a couple of months ago when I started reading Neil Gaiman. But this is a very good adaptation, you know, not exactly like the books, or the book I should say, but yeah, it's very good. I remember enjoying it as a kid, and I thought it was like really creepy as a kid, but now I went back and watched it, and yeah, it's just good. So it's not anything fantastic, but it is very good, so I think B tier is a solid ranking for Coraline. Next up we have The Wizard of Oz, perhaps one of the most classic movies of all time. based off of the book series. I forget who wrote them right now, but yeah. I mean, it's kind of hard to rank this because obviously nowadays the effects don't look too great, and it's kind of like incredibly campy and cheesy, but I mean, there's still quite a bit of enjoyment to be had. What really makes it a little bit negative to me is kind of like looking back and like reading stories about how shitty everything was behind the scenes in this movie. Like, it was just a movie born out of a lot of struggle and grief and like I don't know, just the way they treated Judy Garland throughout the movies, or throughout this movie I should say. So that kind of brings it down a little bit. I think C tier is pretty good for Wizard of Oz. Like, maybe you could argue it should be in a higher tier, but for me personally, I think C tier is where it should go. Okay, next up we have Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones. It is... I'm gonna have trouble ranking this, but seasons 1 through 4, absolutely flawless. I mean, not flawless, but like fantastic television. Absolutely captured the hearts and the concept of the book perfectly. I couldn't imagine it being better, season 1 through 4. Like, I would literally put Game of Thrones next to Lord of the Rings if we were just doing the first 4 seasons. Season 5, it took a little bit of a dip in quality. Like, it was pretty boring throughout season 5, and then it really picks up at the end, though, so that really kind of saves season 5 in my opinion. Season 6, you can tell that they ran out of source material and were kind of just going on it their own. Like, it kind of loses some of the heart of what is Game of Thrones. Like, it's not much of a political drama or anything like intricate. Like, you can tell now it's kind of just more like a big Hollywood blockbuster type thing, but it still wasn't bad. Like, it still captured the essence of Game of Thrones, or Song of Ice and Fire. And season 6, yeah, it started to take that dip, but then season 7, oh my god, season 7 was just bad. Like, there's nothing I can say. Like, the whole premise of the season, like Jon Snow going to meet Daenerys and being like, I will not bend the knee, and then like they just go on this ridiculous quest, absolutely so stupid, to go and grab White to convince Cersei to join their side in the war against the Night King. And it's just ridiculous premise. Like, obviously you're not going to convince Cersei, and like, literally they just needed some sort of plot for the Night King to be able to get a drag. Oh yeah, spoiler alert for all of these, basically. It's a little bit late for that, but whatever. They just needed a plot for the Night King to get a dragon, and it was just so ridiculous. And then, like, the whole point of that quest was essentially for nothing, because Cersei doesn't end up joining their side anyway. And then, so basically that renders the entire season pointless. And then season 8 comes along, and I've never seen something drop the ball so hard as season 8 did for Game of Thrones. Like, it's just so underwhelming, and so much happens that it didn't deserve a good payoff, I guess is a good way to put it. Like, if we look at the first 2 episodes of season 8, those episodes are just really good. Like, it was giving me so much hope for the final season of Game of Thrones. First 2 episodes are great, and then we get to the 3rd episode, the battle for Winterfell against the Night King, what the whole entire show has been building up to. And it's just, first of all, it's shot so poorly that you can barely see what's happening throughout the fight, and then the whole show has been leading up to this, and it's over in 1 episode, and it's just so bad. Like, there's nothing of consequence that happens in the Battle of Winterfell. Like, a couple of the characters die, but none of them are main characters that affect the plotline or change it in any way. And then Arya killing the Night King. Why? Like, I know I watched like the little after the show thing for this episode, like I did with most episodes, and they're like, oh, Game of Thrones is always about subverting expectations, and you all thought it was going to be Jon Snow who killed the Night King. Yeah, because the entire series has been building up to Jon Snow killing the Night King. Just having Arya fly in out of literally nowhere to kill the Night King, it doesn't make any sense. That's not subverting expectations. That's just being a shitty writer. Like, you were like, oh, this is gonna be such a big plot twist. Yeah, it was a plot twist, but not in a good way. Like, I know it would have been kind of cliche for Jon Snow to kill the Night King, but that is what the whole entire show has been leading up to. Like, the two main characters, Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen. Daenerys Targaryen's quest for the Iron Throne has led her storyline. Jon Snow's quest to defeat the Night King has led his entire storyline. And what does he do throughout the battle? He screams at a dragon? Like, he's literally rendered to a useless character. And Arya, why? Like, almost any character would have been better than Arya, but it should have been Jon Snow, and that was just subverting expectations in a really shitty way. I know I'm ranting, but whatever. And then we get to the final couple of episodes, and it could have been good. It really could have been good if there were some build up to Daenerys turning into the Mad Queen. Like, it would have been so good. Like, the scene where Daenerys goes and snaps and just, like, burns down all of King's Landing. Like, it's such a powerful scene, but it's completely ruined because it comes out of absolutely nowhere. The only build-up we have to Daenerys turning crazy is just her looking out the window because her friend died the episode before. Like, obviously you're gonna be sad about that, but to murder thousands of innocents, even your own army, and it just doesn't make sense. There's so many inconsistencies in the final season. It brings it down quite a bit. Like I said, seasons 1 through 4 would have been S tier. Add in 5 and 6, I would have easily given it an A tier, but I'm gonna have to go B tier. Like, it's gotta go somewhere in the middle. Like, it really did sour towards the end, but you gotta give credit where credit is due to the first couple of seasons, because they're immaculate television, but it's just ruined so much. Alright. That was a rant. But, yeah, I won't rant for the rest of these, but, okay. So, next up, we have King Arthur. I think this is called The Legend of the Sword. Came out in like 2015, 2016 area. Obviously one of the many retellings of King Arthur. And this one isn't great. I have a bit of nostalgia for this movie because, I don't know, I thought it was a fun movie, but it just wasn't good. The camera work, it's just like all shaky cam throughout the entire movie. And, yeah, I'm gonna put this in D tier. I'm sorry, but it just wasn't great. Next up, I included another adaptation of King Arthur, and that is Merlin, which was a couple-part miniseries on TV, I think around the early 2000s, and I actually kind of like this. Like, it is incredibly cheesy and campy, but I don't know, like, there's just something about it. I think it's probably, like, my favorite adaptation of the King Arthur storyline. I mean, it's not great. Like, the acting is just kind of all over the place. The CGI, like, I think there was a point where, like, this mountain starts talking to Merlin, and it looks really bad. But it's bad in a good way, I guess you could say. Like, it's a fun movie to watch. But in terms of adaptations, I'm gonna give it a C tier. Like, it's okay. It's not bad. Next up, I have The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, which is based off of the Sabrina the Teenage Witch TV show, which is based off of the Sabrina the Teenage Witch Archie comics series. And obviously, I haven't really read all of the Archie comics Sabrina storyline or books. I've read some here and there, and it's kind of hard to rank an adaptation of a comic book series because there's a lot to go through, but none of it is really substantive. Like, it's just a couple 6-page storyline that they had to turn an entire TV show into, which I think they did a really good job, to be honest. Like, I really like The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. Like, for some reason, it really captivates me. I don't know why. It's kind of just like a cheesy little teen or not movie, but TV show. But I don't know. I'm really interested in this show, and I'm excited to see where it goes. I know there's only one season left, but I don't know. I really like it. So I'm kind of debating whether I should give this B or A tier. Like, I can't imagine putting Sabrina over Game of Thrones. Like, that's kind of much, a little bit too much. But B tier. B tier is good. It's been a solid show throughout its entire run, and I hope it ends really well. I don't know. I really like it for some reason. But yeah. Next up, we have Beauty and the Beast. Obviously, most Disney movies are basically adaptations of fantasy works. Beauty and the Beast is one that I personally really like. I was actually in the play of Beauty and the Beast for my high school, so maybe I have a little bit of nostalgia for it. But yeah, I mean, I really like this. I'm obviously going by the animated movie, not the live-action movie, because that would be like straight into D tier. But I'm gonna give Beauty and the Beast A tier. I think it deserves it. It's a good adaptation. It's a good movie. Like, I'm not really into Disney movies much, but I really like watching Beauty and the Beast. Like, the music in it's good. The animation's really fun. So yeah, Beauty and the Beast, A tier. Why not? Next up, we have the Hobbit trilogy. And now, this might be a little bit controversial, but I really enjoy the Hobbit movies. Like, in terms of an adaptation from the book, they're not great. Like, it's just filled with so much. The book is like between 300-400 pages, and it's a kids movie. And to turn it into 3 movies, obviously it's not an ideal situation. I think one movie would be too little, because it would just be like one thing after the other, unless you cut some things out. But they didn't really cut much out of the Hobbit movies. They just added a shit ton, like, to stretch it out into 3 over 2 hour, I think like 3-hour movies. I don't know, and I have a lot of nostalgia for it, because me and my brother, like, we love the Lord of the Rings, and I went on and became really big fans of the books and stuff. So when the Hobbit movies were coming out, like, my mom would let us skip school to go watch the movies on the day that they released, and I always had fun. And like, for a couple of them, my friend Jordan, or Nightmare as you guys know, he came along with us, and that was really fun. And like, they're fun movies, but the CGI is just not that great. The acting is incredible. I mean, I can't picture it being much better than the acting that is in The Hobbit, but I'm debating between B and C tier. I think it deserves B tier. Like, it's fun. It's a good time to go back to Middle Earth, revisit some of the locations and some of the characters that you met throughout the first trilogy. And yeah, I'm sad, because I really would look forward to those movies, and like, if I was going purely on like the amount that I enjoy them, I would probably give it an A tier. Like, I think they're really fun, but they're just not the best adaptations, so I think B tier is solid. Next up, we have the Witcher television show, based off the books by Andrzej Sapkowski. I think that's how you pronounce it. Yeah, I really like this show. I've only read the first book of the Witcher series, and which, fortunately, that's the majority of what the first season of the Netflix show adapts. So I really enjoyed it. I think I had a little bit of an edge up because I read the series, and or read the first book at least, and the way the story is told is just like really strange, because it just like bounces around from different time periods throughout the story, and like, you don't really know, like, they don't give any indication of when things are happening, like if this happened before the last episode, or if it happened afterward, or it happened like 10 years into the future. Like, there's really no indication of when things are happening until you actually, like, look it up and kind of put things together. But I really enjoyed it. It's kind of campy, but, like, in the best way possible. Like, you can obviously tell Henry Cavill, like, cheesed up his performance of Geralt of Rivia, and, I mean, really the only downside is some of the CGI is not that great, but I don't think that really takes away from it. It kind of adds to the campiness of the show, but I absolutely love the show. I really enjoyed watching it, so A tier for The Witcher. Next up, we have The Chronicles of Narnia, based off the books by C.S. Lewis. And now, I'm only going to do The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, just because that's the only movie that I really remember. I think I'd seen like one or two of the other Narnia movies. I forget how many there are, to be honest, but I'm just gonna do Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And this movie's fine. Like, there's not much to say about it. Like, it's not the greatest movie of all time, but in terms of an adaptation, I think it's good. I think it's pretty good, I guess I could say. Like, it's not something I want to just go back and watch, like, all the time. You know, it's not The Lord of the Rings, it's not anything particularly special, but there are some good moments. The acting is kind of all over the place. Same with the CGI and stuff. And it's not that enjoyable. I don't know, like, it's just average, so I think C tier is good. Next up, we have the Percy Jackson and the Olympians movie. Actually, movies, but I'm just gonna go off the first one because I have only seen the second one once. Didn't like it at all. The first movie, I have a bit of nostalgia for it because I absolutely loved Percy Jackson as a kid, and I was so excited to see the movies. And at the time, I think I just convinced myself that they were really good. But going back, they're not good. The book series is so much better, and I don't know, I can't think of many positive things about the movies. Like, it's just not that great. The acting is just, they completely miscast all the characters. Like, they're supposed to be, like, preteens to teenagers, like 13, I think, around that age, and they cast, like, people in their 20s and 30s to play the kids. Like, it just doesn't really make sense, and yeah, I'm gonna have to put this in D tier. I'm sorry, 10-year-old me who really loved the Percy Jackson movies, or books and stuff, but, I mean, the books are still fine. Like, I really enjoy them. I haven't read them in a long time. Maybe I'll go back and read them in a while, but, yeah, Percy Jackson, gonna put you in a D tier. I'm sorry. And last but not least, we have the Harry Potter series of films. I have complete nostalgia, I will admit, for the Harry Potter series of films. I absolutely loved them. It's such a integral part of my childhood, I think. Like, it started coming out around at the same time that I was really young, I think. I don't remember particularly when the first movie came out, but, like, as the remaining movies came out, I was really growing up with these characters. The acting is good to great. Like, some of the characters are really greatly cast, and their performances are phenomenal. Obviously, in the first movies, you know, they're mainly just kids, and their acting isn't as good as it would be when they grow up into the latter movies, but I think the Harry Potter films are fantastic. They're great adaptations. Obviously, they leave a lot out from the books, but yeah, Harry Potter. I'm debating between S tier and A tier. I think I'm gonna give it A tier because some of the movies I don't like as much, whereas, like, Lord of the Rings, it's just like every movie is phenomenal. But Harry Potter is fantastic. I loved Harry Potter, and I still really like Harry Potter, obviously. So yeah, Harry Potter, A tier. And there you guys have it. That is my fantasy adaptations tier list. Let me know down in the comments what you think. If you think something should have been ranked differently, whatever you have to say, let me know. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I guess I will catch you all in the next video. Farewell.